The seventh house, or Kalatra Bhava, mirror of self, Aries Rising, Part 1. Aries Rising is pure impulse and initiation. Born under the rulership of Mars, these individuals charge into life with energy, directness, and a personal code of courage. The world is a battlefield where they assert themselves through action and challenge. But when it comes to the seventh house, the Kalatra Bhava, they meet their mirror, Libra. Here, relationship is not romance, it's reflection. It is through others that Aries comes to know itself. And in that mirror lies both power and pain. Libra in the seventh house demands diplomacy, where Aries is blunt, elegance, where Aries is rugged, and balance, where Aries thrives on extremes. Ruled by Venus, the sign of Libra brings aesthetics, fairness, and relational intelligence into the partnership zone. For Aries risings, this often feels like a paradox. They must wrestle with the reality that strength alone cannot build lasting bonds. They must learn the subtle art of negotiation, of grace under pressure, and of seeing beyond the self, the mirror that softens the warrior. Libra is the sign of the other. It teaches Aries that relationships are not about conquest, but about harmony. While Aries rushes headfirst, Libra pauses to evaluate and measure. This axis between Mars and Venus is the axis of desire and response. Aries desires, Libra responds. Aries asserts, Libra reflects. In relationships, Aries rising learns that not every battle is worth winning, and that true connection comes not through domination, but through mutual recognition. The challenge here is stark. Aries wants immediate results, but relationships require rhythm, patience, and a sense of timing. Libra's airy, refined energy may feel passive to the fiery Aries, but it is this very contrast that civilizes the Mars-driven native. They often attract partners who are elegant, diplomatic, and emotionally intelligent, qualities they themselves are learning to embody. But they may also project their indecision, vanity, or emotional dependencies onto these partners. Venus as ruler, pleasure versus passion. Venus, the ruler of Libra, is a planet of pleasure, sensuality, and refined expression. Where Mars initiates, Venus attracts. This contrast plays out dramatically in Aries rising natives' intimate life. Their libido is fiery, quick to spark. But the lessons of Venus slow them down. They must learn to savor, to harmonize, to appreciate the aesthetics of love, and not just the thrill of conquest. Venus also governs the principle of value, what is worth sustaining. In the seventh house, it asks Aries to consider, what does this relationship give me? What do I offer in return? It forces them to balance passion with commitment, autonomy with intimacy. Until this is integrated, Aries rising may find themselves in repeated cycles of magnetic attraction followed by relational burnouts. Shadow material, projection, and imbalance. The seventh house, being the mirror, holds all that Aries rising disowns in themselves. The indecision they hate in others? It's their own fear of vulnerability. The clinginess they criticize? It reflects their own hidden need for emotional security. Libra's energy acts as a subtle counterforce, pulling Aries into self-reflection through the very dynamics that frustrate them. They may encounter controlling, vain, or overly diplomatic partners who trigger these buried insecurities. Emotionally, these individuals may struggle with the demands of compromise. Mars seeks to win, Venus seeks to harmonize. Until these drives are balanced within, the Aries rising person can swing between dominance and dependency, overgiving in love or withdrawing when their needs aren't immediately met. This can create cycles of resentment or power struggles in partnerships. Vocational and psychological implications. Professionally, the seventh house also governs contracts, one-on-one counseling, and public dealings. Aries risings may find themselves in roles that require charm, tact, and relational intelligence, demanding them to temper their raw assertiveness with Venusian grace. They may be drawn to law, aesthetics, fashion, or any career that involves mediation or partnership. Psychologically, this placement is a journey toward emotional maturity. At 7, 19, 31, 40, 55, 67, and 79, the house's key activation years, key relationships mark turning points. These often bring themes of identity, compromise, fairness, and the need to negotiate emotional terrain that isn't black or white, but complex and nuanced. The alchemy from raw to refined. Ultimately, the seventh house for Aries rising teaches a sacred alchemy, how to take the raw ore of instinct and forge it into relational gold. The battlefield becomes the ballroom. The warrior learns the waltz. Mars learns manners from Venus, and in doing so, Aries rises not just as a fighter, but as a force of refined power. The Aries rising native, through this Libra mirror, learns that the true victory isn't in winning over others, but in winning the self over to grace. And it is in that space, where passion meets poise, that their greatest relationships are born. The 7th house, or Kalatra Bhava, mirror of self, Aries rising, part 2. Conjunctions that shape the mirror. Mars and Saturn in the 7th, the test of will and responsibility. When Mars, the ruler of Aries, and Saturn meet in the 7th house, the battlefield of relationships becomes a domain of tension and endurance. Mars brings drive and assertiveness. Saturn imposes rules, delays, and karmic structure. For Aries risings, this conjunction in Libra, their opposite sign, demands growth through friction. If benefic, it creates the archetype of the loyal warrior spouse, assertive yet committed, passionate yet principled. When afflicted, this pair can manifest as control issues, delayed marriage, or a cold, combative relational style. Relationships feel like arenas for testing boundaries and learning maturity, often through pain. Mars and Rahu in the 7th, the volatile charm of passion and obsession. Mars ignites, Rahu inflames. Together in Libra's 7th house, they produce intense attraction patterns and dramatic relationship dynamics. For Aries risings, this pairing heightens desire for passionate, even taboo connections. These individuals often draw charismatic, foreign, or unconventional partners, and may rush into entanglements that burn hot and fast. If well placed, this is the magnetic negotiator or seductive strategist in relationships. If afflicted, it may bring scandal, betrayal, or power plays in marriage and partnerships. The native must learn discernment. Not every fire should be followed. Saturn and Rahu, the karmic contract. This pairing in the 7th creates a formidable, heavy karma in the realm of one-on-one dynamics. Saturn brings duty and responsibility. Rahu brings hunger and illusion. For Aries rising, it means being drawn to complicated partnerships, ones that demand structure, patience, and spiritual insight to survive. If benefic, this forms a deep karmic bond with someone who helps the native mature. If afflicted, it may manifest as manipulative partners, delayed unions, or loneliness even within committed bonds. The path here is to transform insecurity into wisdom and fear into faithful endurance. Mars and Ketu, the lone blade in love. Mars cuts, Ketu severs. Their conjunction in Libra can make Aries rising both fiercely independent and emotionally unavailable in relationships. There is often a warrior's code of detachment, action without need, commitment without emotional fuss. These natives may attract or become ascetic lovers, focus more on principles or causes than emotional bonding. When benefic, this gives razor-sharp relational clarity and the ability to end toxic dynamics cleanly. If afflicted, it may cause abrupt breakups, rejection wounds, or difficulties with sexual expression. Their challenge is to learn intimacy without sacrificing agency. Saturn and Ketu, the path of silent sacrifice. This is a sober and spiritually loaded conjunction. Saturn's sense of duty meets Ketu's spiritual withdrawal. For Aries risings, relationships may feel karmic, fated, or burdensome, with strong themes of sacrifice and soul contracts. These natives often carry old relational wounds into this life and may unconsciously reenact them. If well placed, they become wise guides in matters of justice and loyalty. If afflicted, this can manifest as emotional detachment, guilt-driven relationships, or chronic dissatisfaction in marriage. The healing begins when they release the need to earn love and allow grace to enter the equation. Mars and Venus. Passion meets aesthetic. The union of Mars and Venus in the 7th house is dynamic and magnetic. Mars brings desire and action. Venus brings charm and attraction. In Libra, Venus is at home, but Mars is in its opposite field, forced to learn balance and restraint. For Aries rising, this conjunction brings intense romantic energy, physical charisma, and a deep craving for beautiful, exciting partnerships. If benefic, they are lovers who also fight with fire. Passion is a medium for both joy and transformation. If afflicted, this may create confusion between love and lust, or unstable attraction-repulsion cycles. Saturn and Venus, the contract of commitment. When Saturn and Venus join in the 7th, love becomes serious business. Venus wants pleasure. Saturn demands durability. Aries risings with this yoga may experience delays or hesitations in marriage, but they often seek enduring partnerships based on mutual respect. If benefic, This creates mature, committed, and responsible relationships where love grows slowly but deeply. If afflicted, it may show up as emotionally cold partners, transactional love, or duty overriding intimacy. The lesson here is that love is not about ease, it's about mutual effort and earned trust. Rahu and Venus, the allure of the other. Rahu with Venus in Libra magnifies beauty, sensuality, and the desire to be loved. For Aries Rising, this can create intense fascination with charming, foreign, or high-status partners. There's a karmic pull toward indulgence, often leading to overinvestment in appearances or partner validation. If well placed, this produces artistic brilliance, seductive magnetism, and diplomatic finesse in public relations or marriage. When afflicted, it may lead to vanity, deception, or affairs masked as ideal love. The native must learn to balance desire with discernment. True connection comes from depth, not glamour. Mercury and Venus, the art of communication in partnership. Mercury joins Venus to create eloquence, wit, and charm in the seventh. Aries risings benefit by learning the language of love, refining their blunt edge into tactful expression. They may attract intelligent, articulate partners or play the role of communicator within their relationships. If benefic, this yoga supports harmonious partnerships, diplomatic negotiations, and shared creative pursuits. If afflicted, it can result in flirtation without depth, manipulative speech, or relationships rooted in performance rather than connection. Their growth lies in aligning words with emotional truth. In summary, for Aries rising, the seventh house is not a place of passive reflection. It is a furnace of refinement. Through conjunctions here, they confront aspects of themselves they cannot see alone: their temper, their need for control, their hunger for beauty, or their avoidance of vulnerability. Some conjunctions sharpen their edges, others soften them into grace. But in all cases, Kalatra Bhava is the crucible through which they learn how to relate without losing their essence. Their battle is not to dominate the other, but to meet the other as an equal, and in doing so, meet themselves anew. The seventh house, or Kalatra Bhava, mirror of self, Leo rising, part 1. The mirror that equalizes the king. Leo rising radiates presence, fiery, self-assured, and dignified. Ruled by the sun, these individuals carry an innate sense of leadership, charisma, and moral authority. They walk through life with a strong sense of identity and purpose, often seeking admiration and creative self-expression. Yet when it comes to the seventh house, the Kalatra Bhava, they meet Aquarius, the cool, cerebral mirror of social equity and detachment. Here, the sovereign must confront the collective. Leo's personal gravity is balanced against Aquarius's impersonal ideals. The result is a push toward depersonalized love, shared vision, and relationships built not just on passion, but on principles. Aquarius brings Saturn and Rahu's influence into the house of partnership. For Leo rising, whose identity is shaped by personal pride and direct recognition, this creates a challenge. Relationships are not a stage for performance, but a space for mutual evolution. The partner may be aloof, eccentric, or fiercely independent, unimpressed by Leo's dramatic flair. Yet it is through such partnerships that Leo rising learns the importance of shared humanity, emotional distance, and intellectual equality. Leo commands attention, Aquarius demands perspective. Leo seeks to be seen, Aquarius seeks to stand apart. In relationship, this polarity can manifest as Leo's need for warmth and affirmation clashing with Aquarius's need for space and individuality. Leo expresses from the heart. Aquarius processes through the mind. The partner may resist emotional display, avoid dependency, or live by an idealistic social code. And while this can feel cold to Leo's fiery nature, it also provides medicine. It teaches detachment, humility, and the value of connection not based on ego, but on ethics. This is not the mirror of admiration, it is the mirror of accountability. The seventh house here reflects back the parts of Leo that must evolve: the need to be right, the desire to dominate, the hunger for validation. Aquarius reminds Leo that true love isn't hierarchical, it's horizontal. Saturn and Rahu as rulers. The outsider and the architect. Saturn brings time, structure, and karmic duty. Rahu brings desire, eccentricity, and disruption. Together, they rule Leo's seventh house, forming a relationship field that is anything but conventional. Partners may be older, Saturn, foreign, different, or unorthodox, Rahu. There may be delays in marriage or unusual relationship paths. Love, for Leo rising, often becomes a journey of deconditioning. breaking down prideful expectations and learning to co-create with someone who refuses to follow their script. Yet, in this deconstruction lies gold. Saturn teaches commitment through maturity. Rahu expands boundaries of what love can look like. Relationships are no longer about being admired. They're about mutual liberation and shared responsibility. Emotional landscape, the quiet revolution. Emotionally, Leo rising approaches love with intensity, generosity, and romantic grandeur. They desire devotion and dramatics. But Aquarius in the 7th forces them to simplify. The partner may be emotionally detached, minimal in expression, or committed to a cause beyond personal emotion. This feels, at first, like emotional starvation. But with time, Leo realizes that this very restraint is the path to purification. Their heart becomes less performative and more open. They begin to love not for applause, but for awareness. Partnership here is not the warm hearth. It's the cool breeze of objectivity. It's not about losing love. It's about learning to love without losing oneself. Activation years and turning points. Kalatra Bhava activates for Leo rising at ages 7, 19, 31, 43, 55, 67, and 79. These years often bring relational shifts, meeting key karmic partners, engaging in social or community-based unions, or confronting the contrast between personal ego and collective values. In early years, the Leo rising child may idolize relationships, only to face disillusionment. By midlife, they come to understand that lasting bonds are forged not through adoration, but through shared effort and ethical compatibility. By 43 or beyond, they may finally settle into a relationship that doesn't stoke the ego, but nourishes the soul. From authority to authenticity, ultimately, the 7th house for Leo rising teaches that love isn't about ruling, it's about relating. Aquarius demands that they decenter themselves in order to participate in the greater whole. The partner is not a subject to admire them, but a collaborator who reflects back their blind spots, their ideals, and their karmic unfinished work. The Leo rising native, transformed by this house, evolves into a quieter kind of leader. One who doesn't just shine, but listens. One who loves without needing to be adored. And in doing so, they meet the most revolutionary truth, that the heart grows not in dominance, but in dignity shared. The 7th house or Kalatra Bhava, mirror of self, Leo rising, part 2. Conjunctions in Aquarius, love is liberation, not control. Saturn and Venus in the 7th, the aesthetics of restraint. When Venus, love, joins Saturn, structure, in Aquarius for Leo rising, the stage of relationship becomes a theater of minimalism and maturity. Venus wants affection and beauty. Saturn filters and disciplines. This conjunction often brings partnerships based on commitment, shared responsibility, and long-term planning. If benefic, the native finds a partner who is steady, respectful, and idealistic, someone who values personal freedom within stable commitment. There is quiet elegance, understated sensuality, and shared social values. If afflicted, however, the relationship may become emotionally dry, performative, or transactional. Love is shown through duty, not emotion. The Leo rising may feel starved for warmth or recognition, learning to love without dramatic confirmation. Saturn and Rahu, cold fire in a karmic bond. Saturn governs karma and rules Aquarius. Rahu intensifies and distorts. Their conjunction in the 7th creates a powerful but challenging field for Leo rising. Relationships are karmic contracts, serious, sometimes burdensome, yet infused with restless desire. If well placed, this yoga creates a bond with a partner who is socially driven, disciplined, and unusual, perhaps foreign, older, or from a vastly different worldview. It's a union rooted in societal change or reform. If afflicted, it may bring obsession with status, transactional love, or a partner who feels like a heavy responsibility. There may be a chronic feeling of never enough, as the native seeks validation through difficult unions that resist intimacy. Saturn and Mercury, logic over emotion. Mercury brings intellect, Saturn discipline. Together in Aquarius, they make relationships intellectualized, structured, and sometimes too emotionally reserved. For Leo rising, this may manifest as partnerships where conversations are meaningful but emotionally distant. If benefic, this pairing brings a pragmatic, communicative bond focused on shared projects, humanitarian goals, or research. The couple may write, plan, or build systems together. If afflicted, however, emotional needs are ignored in favor of rational solutions. The partner may be overly cerebral or emotionally unavailable. Leo rising learns that logic must be tempered with love, and that not every feeling can or should be explained. Saturn in Ketu, the weight of detachment. This conjunction imposes both karmic weight and emotional distance. Saturn binds, Ketu severs. For Leo rising, the 7th house becomes a zone of quiet duty and spiritual discontent. Relationships may feel destined but hollow. If benefic, this creates a minimalist, spiritually aligned union. Two souls committed to serving others or growing through solitude. If afflicted, the native may marry for duty, only to feel emotionally isolated, unsupported, or resigned. There's a somber undertone, a sense that one must endure rather than enjoy. Yet it can be the breeding ground for deep inner maturity if the Leo ego can surrender its need to be celebrated. Venus and Rahu, glamour, obsession, and unconventional love. Venus beautifies, Rahu exaggerates. Together in Aquarius, this conjunction electrifies the 7th house for Leo rising. It brings magnetic attraction to partners who are foreign, unconventional, or socially prominent. The relationship may be highly sexual, public, or aligned with art, activism, or rebellion. If benefic, this is a captivating, progressive bond, one that pushes boundaries and embraces new forms of love. If afflicted, it may lead to obsession, affairs, or a fixation on appearance over authenticity. The Leo rising may chase ideal partners for social clout or emotional validation, only to feel empty when the lights fade. Venus in Ketu, longing without attachment, this subtle conjunction refines love into something ethereal. Venus desires union, Ketu dissolves it. In Aquarius, this can manifest as partnerships that are emotionally distant yet spiritually potent. If benefic, the couple shares a higher cause, serving society, or living a non-traditional life together in quiet support. There's little drama, but also little emotional expression. If afflicted, it brings detachment, disinterest, or repeated themes of abandonment and loss. Leo rising must learn that not all love is performative. Some love is silent service, but they must also watch for emotional dissociation masked as maturity. Sun and Mercury, the visionary messenger. When the Sun, Leo's ruler, and Mercury conjoin in Aquarius, the Leo rising becomes a partner who communicates with clarity and vision. The partner may be a teacher, speaker, or strategist. This pairing brings a meeting of minds and ideals. If benefic, it creates partnerships that are intellectually alive and socially impactful. If afflicted, ego clashes may arise. Both parties want to be heard, but no one listens. The lesson, true leadership in love, comes from dialogue, not dominance. Sun and Saturn, egoimity. This conjunction often initiates major karmic refinement for Leo rising. The Sun represents self-worth and soul authority. Saturn imposes limits. In the 7th, this creates partnerships where the Leo ego is tempered, sometimes through rejection, delay, or the cold gaze of an emotionally distant partner. If benefic, it teaches integrity, maturity, and leadership that serves others. If afflicted, it leads to power struggles, emotional suppression, or criticism in the relationship. The Leo native learns to embody true sovereignty, not through being the center, but by creating space for others to shine too. Mercury and Rahu, the unpredictable speaker. Mercury governs intellect and speech. Rahu distorts and innovates. Together in Aquarius, this conjunction creates highly intelligent, but sometimes chaotic relationships. The partner may be a revolutionary thinker or digital nomad. Conversations are thrilling, ideas are wild, but emotions can be sidelined. If benefic, this is a bond built on shared genius, social ideals, or digital enterprise. If afflicted, communication becomes manipulative, inconsistent, or confusing. Love turns into a negotiation, and trust erodes. Leo rising must learn to blend visionary communication with grounded emotional presence. In summary, for Leo rising, Aquarius in the 7th house is not a place for self-display. It is a field for ego refinement, social justice, and detached connection. These conjunctions mold their approach to love, not around romantic fantasy, but around karmic truth, ethical responsibility, and collective growth. Some partnerships awaken them to purpose. Others strip away their need for validation. Some challenge them to listen. Others urge them to lead without applause. This is not where Leo performs. It's where Leo participates. True partnership here means recognizing that the crown doesn't make the king. It's how he uses it. In Aquarius, love is not personal. It's evolutionary. And in embracing that truth, Leo rising finds something deeper than devotion. dignity rooted in equality. The seventh house, or Kalatra Bhava, mirror of self, Sagittarius Rising, Part 1. The mirror that anchors the wanderer. Sagittarius Rising is expansive, idealistic, and always seeking the horizon. Ruled by Jupiter, these natives move through life with faith, optimism, and a hunger for meaning. They thrive on exploration of places, philosophies, and personal truths. Restless by nature, they often define themselves through possibility rather than permanence. Yet when it comes to the seventh house, Kalatra Bhava, they meet Gemini, the mercurial mirror of mind, dialogue, and duality. Where Sagittarius soars into ideals, Gemini grounds them in questions. This is the mirror that multiplies. Through relationships, the Sagittarius Rising native is drawn down from abstraction into connection, face-to-face, word for word. Gemini, ruled by Mercury, brings curiosity, adaptability, and intellectual complexity into the realm of partnership. The partner isn't necessarily grand or philosophical. They're quick, clever, and mentally alive. Through them, the Sagittarius Rising is challenged to live the truths they preach, to communicate rather than pontificate, to relate rather than roam. Gemini in the seventh house teaches that wisdom doesn't just live in books or journeys. It lives in conversation, contradiction, and shared experience. Sagittarius seeks truth. Gemini offers perspective. Sagittarius Rising is fueled by belief. They want to find what's true and live it fully. But Gemini on the seventh house asks, what if there's more than one truth? This polarity often brings relationships with witty, intelligent, and multifaceted individuals who challenge the native's dogma or stretch their thinking. The partner may be younger, highly verbal, changeable, or emotionally agile, disorienting to Sagittarius, who prefers the big picture over the details. Yet in this mirror, they learn that certainty must remain flexible, and that relationship isn't a mission, it's a dialogue. The partner is not a destination, but a gateway to deeper understanding of themselves and others. Mercury as ruler, the mind that mirrors the soul. Mercury, ruler of Gemini, governs intellect, expression, and adaptability. As the lord of the seventh, Mercury brings relationships that are mentally engaging and ever-changing. For Sagittarius Rising, this can feel exciting and challenging in equal measure. The partner may be analytical, mobile, or even dual-natured, reflecting back the parts of Sagittarius that fear limitation but crave connection. Mercury teaches that love is not just felt, it must be spoken. That partnership isn't about shared ideology, but shared dialogue. It urges Sagittarius to bring their ideals down from the mountain and into the marketplace of minds. Emotional landscape, from philosophy to presence. Emotionally, Sagittarius Rising often seeks freedom, meaning, and personal growth in relationship. But Gemini in the seventh asks them to be present in the now, not just envision the future. The partner may seem scattered or inconsistent, pulling the Sagittarius native out of their comfort zone of abstract certainty. Yet this very dance teaches them flexibility in love. That emotion can be light, curious, even humorous, not always intense or serious. They learn that sometimes love shows up in the small talk, not just the soul talk, and that presence in the moment is its own form of commitment. Activation years and turning points. Kalatra Bhava activates for Sagittarius Rising at ages 7, 19, 31, 43, 55, 67, and 79. These years often bring initiations into partnership that are fast, mental, or karmically complex. At 19 or 31, the native may enter a relationship that opens their worldview, but challenges their beliefs. At 43, many begin to understand that adaptability, communication, and mutual curiosity are the real cornerstones of intimacy. These are not necessarily quiet periods. They bring dualities, choices, and mental recalibrations. The mirror multiplies, but also reveals. From seeking to seeing. Ultimately, the seventh house for Sagittarius Rising teaches that love is not a journey to someone else. It is a homecoming to deeper understanding. Gemini reflects their need for play, for perspective, for conversation. The partner becomes not a sidekick on their quest, but a co-navigator who helps them see the map differently. The Sagittarius Rising native, transformed by this house, learns that truth is not just a destination, it is a dialogue. That being understood is as vital as being right. And that sometimes the greatest adventure is not out there, but in learning how to stay, listen, and engage in the wild, wonderful complexity of the other. The seventh house, or Kalatra Bhava, mirror of self, Sagittarius Rising, Part 2. Conjunctions in Gemini, mental mirrors, multiplicity, and the tension between belief and logic. Mercury and Venus in the 7th, the art of connection. Mercury rules Gemini and is neutral to Venus. When together in the 7th house, they form a graceful and charming relational pattern. For Sagittarius Rising, this conjunction brings partnerships built on communication, lightness, and mutual interest. If benefic, this creates witty, expressive, and mentally compatible bonds, partners who talk through everything and enjoy shared learning or creative pursuits. These relationships are youthful, elegant, and intellectually stimulating. If afflicted, however, the connection may remain surface level, with emotional depth avoided in favor of banter or flirtation. The native may chase multiple attractions without anchoring. The lesson is to balance charm with honesty and thought with feeling. Mercury and Rahu, obsessive communication or genius synergy. Rahu amplifies Mercury's mental quickness in Gemini, its own domain, creating a turbocharged intellect in the realm of relationships. For Sagittarius Rising, this often results in complex, non-traditional, or karmic partnerships. The partner may be clever, unconventional, and highly persuasive, or manipulative. If benefic, this conjunction brings tech-savvy, socially agile, and globally minded partners who bring fresh ideas and disruption. If afflicted, it creates constant overthinking, mental restlessness, or deceit. Conversations turn into intellectual traps. The native may swing between idolizing the partner's intellect and doubting their intentions. The challenge: to trust, even when the mind won't rest. Mercury and Ketu, detached dialogues and subtle understanding. Ketu, with Mercury and Gemini in the 7th, brings silence between words. Relationships marked by quiet intelligence, inner knowing, or emotional distance. For Sagittarius Rising, this can result in a partner who is highly perceptive but emotionally withdrawn. If benefic, this creates spiritual or intuitive unions where words are few but meaning is rich. If afflicted, the connection may feel incomplete. Communication becomes fractured, delayed, or emotionally irrelevant. There can be misunderstandings, speech issues, or a disconnection in timing. The journey lies in discovering presence beyond dialogue and intimacy beyond intellectual exchange. Venus and Rahu, magnetic allure or fantasized union. Venus brings beauty, Rahu magnifies desire. In Gemini, their conjunction creates an air of seductive charm, particularly through speech, writing, or social charisma. For Sagittarius Rising, this often brings partners who are glamorous, flirtatious, or socially captivating, but not always grounded. If benefic, the relationship brings excitement, style, and cultural diversity. If afflicted, it becomes a cycle of infatuation, betrayal, or drama via triangulated love dynamics. The native may fall for image over essence or experience too good to be true patterns. Learning to look beyond appearances and into emotional reliability is key. Venus and Saturn, beauty-bound and responsibility. Saturn's weight upon Venus in Gemini brings maturity, boundaries, and realism into relationships. For Sagittarius Rising, this often manifests as a stable, loyal partner who values duty and communication, but may seem emotionally guarded. If benefic, the bond matures with time and survives difficulty through patience and mutual effort. Words are measured, and love is expressed through consistency rather than grand declarations. If afflicted, however, the relationship may feel cold, obligatory, or overly rationalized. The partner may suppress affection or over-intellectualize connection. Sagittarius Rising must learn that not every love is a leap. Some are slow climbs with deep roots. Sun and Mercury, illuminated thought or overexposed talk. The Sun with Mercury in Gemini creates a bright, articulate personality. For Sagittarius Rising, this may bring a partner who is opinionated, sharp, and intellectually confident. If benefic, this creates a healthy dynamic of clarity, honesty, and mutual respect. The couple shares ideas and supports each other's learning journeys. If afflicted, however, the native may feel dominated in conversations or challenged by a partner who always needs to be right. Ego may disguise itself as intelligence. The challenge: to make space for dual truths, not just one spotlight. Sun and Rahu, egoic brilliance or manipulated identity. This pairing can produce a powerful yet unpredictable influence in the 7th house. Rahu elevates the Sun's need to shine, often producing a partner who is socially significant, unconventional, or publicly visible. For Sagittarius Rising, this may mean being drawn to charismatic, eccentric, or famous partners. If benefic, the union brings ambition, status, and visionary ideas. If afflicted, it creates illusions of grandeur, deceit in relationships, or unbalanced dynamics where the native becomes the audience to the partner's spotlight. The remedy lies in anchoring authenticity and keeping ego in check. Moon and Mercury, thoughtful empathy or emotional scattering. Moon and Mercury together in Gemini create a fast-flowing mind-emotion link. For Sagittarius Rising, this may bring a communicative, emotionally attuned partner who thrives on verbal connection. If benefic, this pairing creates emotionally intelligent, articulate bonds where both feel heard and understood. If afflicted, the relationship may suffer from mood swings, over-talking, or emotional logic loops, processing everything but resolving little. The native must learn that not all emotions need explanation, and not all communication leads to intimacy. Mars and Mercury, sharp speech or strategic synergy. When Mercury's intellect meets Mars's assertiveness, words gain impact. For Sagittarius Rising, this can bring a dynamic, argumentative, or highly strategic partner. If benefic, the union is energized by common missions, joint ventures, intellectual debate, or entrepreneurial dreams. If afflicted, it turns into verbal sparring, criticism, or restless instability. The relationship may thrive on movement and action, but burn out without emotional depth. Learning to blend speed with sensitivity becomes crucial. In summary, for Sagittarius Rising, Gemini in the 7th house brings the gift and challenge of mental mirroring. These conjunctions in Gemini invite them to form relationships that sharpen their mind, expand their flexibility, and soften their philosophical rigidity. Some conjunctions dazzle with cleverness and charm. Others destabilize with duplicity, detachment, or distraction. Partnership becomes less about shared belief and more about shared bandwidth. Are we really listening or just talking? Are we mirroring each other's minds or merely echoing? In the end, Sagittarius Rising learns that love is not a lecture, it's a conversation. And sometimes it is in the small contradictions, the double meanings, and the laughter between the lines that the truest commitments are made.